How are you, Hope?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. What time is it over there for you?
9.
Well, good morning.
Right.
Um, well, thank you very much for hopping on with me and FloRugby. For viewers, we have a very special guest. This is the one and only Hope Rogers, a 29 cap USA Eagle, a 2014 World Cup Dream Teamer, and a 2019 Super Series Dream Teamer, and also sevens player. Few stops on the sevens circuit with the national team, and a four-time collegiate national champion. And we're very happy to have you on. Thank you, Hope.
Thanks for having me.
So I have to ask, before all the accolades and before your journey all over the world to play, how did it all get started for you?
When I started playing rugby in high school, I saw an announcement my sophomore year of high school, and my friend and I were like, "Oh, we should try this out." And we went out and tried it, and as soon as our first practice happened, loved it, and I was hooked ever since.
What position did they put you at when you first joined?
I was 8,
Like,
so I loved it.
had you played other sports prior to rugby?
Not really. When I was in elementary school, I twirled a baton,
Okay.
and then it was by force. Um, and then, um, and then my junior year in high school, I did 1 year of basketball. Mostly rode the bench though. Uh,
Ooh,
I kind of got a couple too many fouls here and
mm,
there. And
classic.
then I got a job. What'd you say?
It's a classic rugby player problem.
Sick rugby player. I got a job and started working, and then rugby came, and I was like, I should do this. And they were really flexible with my work schedule, so yeah, it was love at first game,
Do you
first
remember?
practice.
Do you remember your first game?
I do. Well, vaguely. I just remember running. I had no idea what I was doing, and my coach was like, "Just run and tackle people." And I was like, "Okay."
Mm,
So I was
that's
running around the
easy
whole
enough.
field, pretty much like a chicken with my head cut off, just trying to tackle the ball. I was very tired because obviously you're just running around the whole field.
So where did you grow up?
Chambersburg, Pennsylvania.
It was high school rugby, kind of a bigger thing there than I guess other areas.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, the area I was growing up in, rugby was really taking off. So at the time, we were composed of 3 high school teams in the area, whereas now Chambersburg has their own team.
That's cool.
But there were about, yeah, especially in the Philadelphia area, there were a lot of rugby teams. So we would go there a lot to play teams.
So I guess it was probably a pretty natural transition, to go to Penn State because it's right there. What was the recruiting, process kind of like back, or were you recruited, or did you just go to the school as a student first?
No, so I was actually planning on going to Valley Forge Christian College to work in youth ministry.
Okay.
Um, and that was the plan. But then at one of the rugby camps that I had gone to, Lance Conley, he is a big like sponsor of Penn State, a big part of our family there. And he saw me and started then getting in Pete Steinberg's ear, who was the coach at the time, I guess. And so then they just were like, "Hey, come up to a rugby thing." And so I went up to a weekend and really loved it. And then for me, I just kind of knew that at the time with where women's rugby was, if I wanted to achieve my goals, I pretty much really needed to go to Penn State,
Yeah.
which made that decision for me. And I had a really good education program because I ended up going for early childhood education. So it was a
Cool.
great school too.
Yeah, I know there's, I mean, I down in Austin, I help coach with the Austin Valkyries, and there's a few girls on the team that they always say, dang, I just really wish I would have gone to Penn State, to play my rugby in college. But obviously, it's not the easiest to get into, rugby and school-wise. But you guys kind of, I feel like I've kind of, raised the bar when it comes to collegiate women's rugby. And I want to ask, what was the kind of the typical practice schedule, and how serious did y'all take it up there to become, four-time champions in your 4 years there?
Yeah, it was definitely serious. It was the culture was a competitive culture. We during leading up to playoffs, we did this thing called April Push, and so every morning, I believe it was like 5 a.m., we would get up and either have some sort of a practice or a fun. It could be something fun that the leaders put on, but and we kind of just created the culture of this. We're here to compete. We're here, to do our best in every game that we can. And I think going in, it's just that legacy, right? So you're going into a team that the more you win, the more you're like, I can't be that team that loses. I can't be that team that loses at certain times. And so you really are pushing. You're really pushing yourself because you want to be able to contribute everything. And I mean, at some point, you're going to lose, and that's totally fine. It's actually really good. Women's rugby is taking off in collegiately, right? And now there's so many competitive teams, which is really good for the growth of rugby in America. So it's really awesome to actually see.
Did you ever lose while you were there?
No, not in America, not in the U.S.
Who was did y'all go on an overseas trip?
Yeah, we would go to spring break. So spring break we would go so I've gone to France, Ireland, southern France, Spain, and where was the other one? I forget what the other one was at the moment. But we would go there and we would play other teams. And my first year when we had gone and played some of the women's teams in France, we lost against some of those women.
Do you know
if in America?
Do you know if any of the women that you played when you toured to France ended up playing on the French national team that you've played quite a few times by now?
Yeah, there were, and I remember our coach telling us that too. He'd be like, the prop you're going against is an international prop. And I'm like, great.
So you were in college, right? When you got your first call up to the Eagles?
Yeah, so it was 2013. So in 2011, I tore my ACL meniscus, and I took a full year to recover from that one, and I started playing the end of my freshman year. My first game for Penn State was actually a playoff game. They subbed me in during the playoffs, and and then the next year, 2013, was whenever I got my first invite to a national team camp, and then my first cap for the Eagles.
What was that first call like when you received the invitation to the national team?
I didn't necessarily believe it, or I guess I thought that I was just going to sit on the bench the whole time, or I don't know. It was crazy because I know that my coach, Pete, he really believed in me, but he's like, I see you have a ton of potential, like you just really need to get in shape, pretty much. And that was the biggest thing, is I was pretty out of shape. And they brought me along, and I subbed in both of the games. And it was crazy because my first international contact was against the number 8 for France, and she's a pretty solid girl. and we hit, and it was just kind of like a boom and like a down, and I was like, the wind was knocked out of me. I was like, oh my goodness. And my coach was like, welcome to International Rugby.
Nice.
I was like, oh, great.
Fun. But that's pretty cool because you went on, was it the very next year was the World Cup?
Yeah, that summer, 2013 was a busy summer because I got capped for the senior team, and then I actually was my first time I played for the U20s afterwards. So I had a 15s tour, a U20s tour, and then we actually had another 15s tour that summer.
Oh, so
and then
so you went from the senior team first and then U20s?
Yeah, because I 20s and the year before, and before I hurt my knee, and I didn't make the team. And then after I'd rehabbed, I got capped for the senior team, and then played with the U20s, and then played with the senior team, and then the next year was the World Cup.
Wow. So yeah, that's a kind of a whirlwind of, international competition in 1 year.
It happened so fast.
So that 2014 World Cup, though, y'all did phenomenal.
Yeah, we did pretty well. I remember our last game was against New Zealand, and it was after they had lost to Ireland, and they were kind of out for vengeance, and we definitely, I don't know if we were quite ready for the wrath that they were giving us.
Wait.
But yeah, no, I remember doing well in it.
Which was the year that y'all went to the semifinal?
2017.
Okay, sorry.
So
I got 'em
yeah,
confused.
so yeah. So 2017, we were played France for third, and we lost, so we got fourth in 2017.
But that's outstanding.
Yeah, it was really awesome. The first 2 minutes of that game was amazing. It was such fast-paced, good rugby. We had possession of the ball, and I think we were all like, "We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this."
Yeah.
And France ended up pulling away a bit, unfortunately, but
France
we'll have our comeback.
Yeah. Speaking of comebacks, you were right at the heart of that comeback against Canada last year in the Super Series, and I thought that was one of the best games of the year. What was that like playing, in that game, in a rivalry game, turning the tides the way that y'all did, coming back?
It's an amazing feeling. We, as a US lately, we've just been falling to games quite a bit, unfortunately, but we're there. Like there's a feeling and a belief amongst our team that like we're just there. Like we're just waiting for that moment to come, and it came against Canada, and we felt it. And I think what it did was it instilled a belief amongst our team that we are really good athletes, but we're also very good rugby players. And the more we learn together, the better we're just going to get. And I think it was an amazing feeling, honestly. We've just been waiting for that moment to come a while. And we're always told it's the process, right? It's the process. We're going to get there. Like, the coaches have their, they want to look at certain players, or they want to look at certain combinations until they kind of are forming that string of team that they're kind of thinking of. And so we're all just kind of waiting here and there to have our moments. And as a team, we had that moment against Canada, and it was definitely a team effort looking at it. And I was on the bench for the start of that game, and the team was doing a great job. And I know there was a couple of us were like, all right, we're ready. And it was just amazing to go in and try to up the momentum and keep the girls that have been playing 80 minutes just going. Right. We're like, come on, we can do this.
I remember
it was awesome.
I remember that being a huge factor in that game was that our impact subs came on and, way just kept that momentum going. You and Olivia Ortiz came on, and I can't remember. There was Katana Howard came on and had
Mm.
that amazing kick, and I just remember it was like all this momentum, and you could just feel the tide turning because we were like pounding on their goal line a lot and not scoring, and then finally, Lav had that super long run, and I felt like that just broke the dam, and like everyone was like, all right, this is gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that just shows you and people that it's literally like 1 to 23, and even the 1 or 2 players that aren't rostered for a certain game, it's literally like it's an entire team that wins games, and that is exactly what we did that day. And
Yeah.
I think that's like the most amazing part about it.
Right. And you look at, obviously Canada is one of the best teams in the world, and we can beat them, have a big comeback against them. I don't see why at next year's World Cup, we can't go on and do that against all the top teams and make a run. And
For sure.
I think I like what you said about, it's the process in the building, because that's kind of something that I've heard Rob Kane talk about quite a bit is, building an entire squad, deep squad that can, go the distance in a long tournament. But, well, I guess we're getting close to running out of time here, but I want to ask a couple more questions for you. First one is, do you have any sort of encouragement or words of wisdom to aspiring young women's players coming up into the next generation?
I guess for me, one of the biggest things that I've had to learn is I'm very much a perfectionist, and I like to achieve things. And so I don't do the best with setbacks and failures in a way. Um, but it's through those setbacks and those failures that actually kind of show who your character is and actually help you become better in the end. And so whether it's a dropped ball on the goal line, or not moving your feet to get into space, or
Right.
not selected for a team, or having a dream and falling short and falling just short, God's always going to open up a new door, and there's always going to be new dreams, and there's always going to be bigger things ahead. And so it's through any setback or anything, just keep going and learn from those mistakes and learn from those things, because they're actually going to just make you a better athlete and a better rugby player, but a better person as well.
I love that. That's really deep, and I think, myself included, a lot of us need to hear that.
With my feelings.
Yeah, a lot of us athletes need to hear that. That's really, I like that a lot. Okay, and my last question before we hop off is, to you, what is rugby?
Rugby to me has really been family. It's really given me a big support system, and lifelong friends that have kind of just stepped in and become my family. I know that I don't think I would be where I am today in my life if it wasn't necessarily for rugby and everything that the sport of rugby has given me. And I think rugby is just a way that I'm able to work hard at something, and it's kind of goes beyond myself, and it's bigger than me, and it's able to contribute to something that can make a difference. And really, at the end of the day, it's just giving God glory for the talents He's blessed me with, and the opportunities He's given me, and to work hard and try to make the most and be the best at everything I can be. At the end of the day, if I've given it my best effort, I can go to bed with a smile on the way. So.
That's awesome. Well, Hope, thank you so much for hopping on. I wish we had more time, but it's got to be 20 minutes or less. But I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me, and I really would like for a lot of people to hear your message, especially there at the end. I think that's really, really deep and really touching for athletes. And best of luck to you moving forward.
Thank you
And
so much.
hopefully we can get out of this pandemic safely and move on
Yes,
with more
please,
rugby.
for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Here.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.